Hey everybody, what's going on? I recently saw the new teaser trailer for the newest upcoming Spider-Man movie, The Amazing Spider-Man, with Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, and from what I can see, it looks like they got Martin Sheen to play Uncle Ben. I can't really recognize any of the other actors in the movie, but I will. The point of this video is so that I can sort of make a statement about what I do want to see in this movie and what I do not want to see. First of all, let me start by saying that I really do not think that a reboot of the Spider-Man movies was really necessary. I'm still not really supportive of the idea of rebooting a movie series that isn't even 10 years freaking old yet. But I guess you can't stop the greedy, corrupt movie companies from having their way, so I reckon we ought to make the best of it. Right, now that I got that out of the way, let me actually start talking about things that I want to see in this movie. Now, based on what I've seen from the teaser trailer, we barely see Peter Parker in the outfit. We don't actually see that until like at the very end, where we see the sort of first person web swinging angle going on. And one thing that I can definitely say that I want to see is that I want to see Peter Parker 80% of the time that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I want to see him keep the mask on. One of the biggest things that annoyed me about the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies is that, well, maybe not so much with the first one, but with the second and third movie, is that any chance that Tobey Maguire had to take off his mask, he took it. I mean, seriously, you know, and the thing is that, Spider-Man is just like any superhero out there. He has a secret identity, and the only way to retain that secret identity is to keep his mask on. So it really doesn't make any sense to me that, 80% of all the time in Spider-Man 3, whenever Spider-Man was fighting, he did it with his freaking mask off, especially towards the end of the movie, which really pissed me off. I could understand a lot of the times in Spider-Man 2, because when he was on the train, he got his mask all burned and charred, so he pretty much had to take his mask off then to see what he was doing, but even then it was still a bit annoying. So the one thing I definitely want to see is that when Spider-Man is in costume, I want to see him keep the mask on. Also, another thing I want to see is that I realize they're going to have a romance in this movie between Peter and Gwen. So, as much as I realize that the whole romance and personal life of Peter Parker is important and essential to any piece of Spider-Man media, I still want the romance to be somewhat toned down because, that was sort of another complaint I had about the old Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, is that, the romance was just so cumbersome and it just dragged along so badly, and it was really a chore to sit through that we were just waiting for some Spider-Man moments to show up, because at the end of the day, I realized Raimi was trying to make the movies about Peter Parker more so than Spider-Man, but at the end of the day, the movie's called Spider-Man, okay? And if we go to see a Spider-Man movie, we want to see Spider-Man, okay? So I hope that the whole romance, drama thing, I really hope there's no BS cliche love triangle in this. And I hope that if there is romance, then I want it to be done right. I want there to actually feel like a natural attraction between Peter and Gwen, like there was in the comics, because in the comics you really felt the whole natural attraction between Peter and Gwen, which was all the more devastating when the Green Goblin actually murders her, but by throwing her off the bridge. So I hope that they do the romance right. Another thing that I really want to see, and I want to see very badly, is that I want to see Spider-Man cracking wise. One thing that was severely left out of the older Spider-Man movies is that Spider-Man rarely ever cracked a joke, which, that angered a lot of fans, me included, since, Spider-Man is one of the most, smart-ass characters in the entire Marvel universe. He is universally known as being, he's known for being a comedian whenever he fights supervillains. Spider-Man is rarely ever serious or brooding or like emo. And from the way it looks like in this trailer, Andrew Garfield looks to be very brooding and just this very soft spoken, and that's not really what I would imagine Peter Parker to be like. Even though Peter Parker goes through a very hard personal life, he always tends to be very stoic and very joking about it, no matter how bad things get. That's the way I feel about that whole thing. If they're going to have Spider-Man on screen, I want to see him cracking jokes. I want to see him mouthing off to all the criminals he fights, because that's what Spider-Man does. Okay? Great, Superman is known for being a Boy Scout, for being selfless, for being the image of, good and purity. Batman is real serious and brooding. Spider-Man is a very happy-go-lucky, very funny character, and I hope that they keep true to that in this new movie. And I hope that with future trailers they release for The Amazing Spider-Man, I hope that I hope the tone changes from being the sort of Dark Knight-esque tone that the first teaser trailer goes for, to being a more happy-go-lucky, fun, campy type superhero movie, because that's what I want Spider-Man to be. I don't want it to be a gritty, realistic crime drama like The Dark Knight. I want it to be funny and campy and fun and, over the top, like a Spider-Man movie should be. As far as the things I don't want to see, for one thing, I realize that they teased at it in the teaser, but I really hope we don't see his origin again. If they're going to show that, then I hope it only happens in like a flashback or something. Because, to be honest, we all know how Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man. It's common freaking knowledge. We really don't need to see that again. They need to do just like they did with the Hulk. They need to just show that very briefly in a flashback and actually, get on to moving the plot forward, of him being Spider-Man. Hell, do what they did in the Spectacular Spider-Man show and just started out where he's Spider-Man for like a whole year or something. And then, resuming with his high school life. As far as I do like how they actually brought in his parents. I hope they actually sort of elaborate more on how his parents end up getting killed. And as far as the Lizard goes, I hope they end up doing him right. And also, one more thing I want to see. This involves the Lizard, but I'm getting kind of tired of seeing the Lizard being portrayed as just, a dumb animal, a dumb monster. I actually want to see, because, the Lizard, he talked in the comics and like a couple of the cartoons I can remember. I remember him speaking in the animated series, and that's sort of what I want to see here. I want to see him as an intelligent creature. I want to see him talk. And I want to see that personal torment that Peter Parker has to have at the fact that, this guy who was his friend, he's not his friend any longer. He just turns into this evil, malevolent creature. That's what I want to see as far as the Lizard goes. I want to see that dichotomy of Peter not wanting to fight this man who is his friend and also one of his most loyal teachers. I hope they play up that whole aspect of the movie, and I think that it would work a lot better if the Lizard could actually talk, if we actually were convinced that it's no longer Kirk Connors but just the Lizard persona. Another thing that I really want to see is that I want to see a lot of villain characters, but I don't actually want to see them become villains. I just want to see them introduced as regular human characters, and maybe future Spider-Man movies that they make as a sequel to all this, that they could, establish them as villains and not sort of bring them out of nowhere. Because I think that would work a lot better if we already have them established as, regular characters, so it would feel a lot more natural to actually just see them become villains. That's sort of a problem I had with The Dark Knight, is that, they with The Dark Knight, they just introduced Harvey Dent in that movie. He wasn't actually a regular character in the original Batman Begins. So I'm hoping that they bring in a good bit of villain characters in this movie. Like maybe it'd be cool to see like Sergei Kravinoff or Flint Marko or Max Dillon or no, maybe a couple of characters they could just have as minor characters is the Enforcers. I would love to see the Enforcers, Ox, Fancy Dan, Montana, those characters. I would love to see them like make a cameo, or maybe just have Spider-Man fight them for like one scene and just have them sort of locked up, before he fights the Lizard. That would definitely be cool. And if they're gonna stick with the sort of the '60s comics, the Lee Ditko era, I think it'd be cool if they brought in characters. If they showed Adrian Toomes, like I said, they could show Norman Osborn before he becomes the Green Goblin, and maybe they could have Adrian Toomes in there as well, and maybe Otto Octavius before they become the Vulture or Doctor Octopus. I want to see them make good use of the enormous cast of supporting characters and like villain characters that Spider-Man has. You know, that's really what I want to see, is that, if they're gonna stick closely to the Lee Ditko era, I sort of want them to take advantage of all of the rich history that era provides. Like maybe it'd be cool to see L. Thompson Lincoln, aka Tombstone, in there. Maybe she'll have a cameo. Well, I know they're gonna have like Flash Thompson and like Gwen Stacy, and maybe have a cameo with Hobie Brown, and maybe in future movies he could become the Prowler. As far as the Daily Bugle goes, I have a feeling they're probably gonna show Peter Parker become a member of the Daily Bugle. So maybe they could have like Ned Leeds or Eddie Brock, have all those characters in there, or maybe Frederick Foswell. There's all kinds of possibilities that they could take with this film. So, in closing, my first thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man is that it looks okay. I really hope they release more trailers showcasing a different tone for the movie, because I do want it to be more happy-go-lucky, than the previous three movies. I want it to be a lot more fun and campy and entertaining, like Spider-Man should be. So far, it looks okay, but I'm really hoping they release more trailers with a significantly different tone. Right. That's my thoughts on the Amazing Spider-Man trailer. Those are what I do and don't want to see in the movie. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and goodbye. Excelsior! Oh, sorry, I had to do that. Later.